You are listening to Missed Apex Podcast. We live F1. Welcome to Missed Apex Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Reddy, but my friends call me Spanners. So, let's be friends. Today, we're looking forward to Monza, but Uncle Stefano, Domenicali, has completely distracted us. So we are going to talk about the alarming and drastic changes that F1 seems determined to make. We are an independent podcast produced in the podcasting shed with the kind support of our patrons and partners. We aim to bring you a race review before your Monday morning commute. We might be wrong, but we're first. Matt's taking a little break, but he'll be back for the Monza Grand Prix race review. So we're joined by Scott Stuffy Tuffy. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Spanners. I can see that we're in matching Ferrari tops. I mean, they need all the support they can get after what happened this past weekend and heading into Monza, especially with a 5-place grid penalty for Lewis Hamilton.
Well, we're both Lewis Hamilton fans, so this is our first Monza home Grand Prix, I guess. And I've made myself feel better about the 5-place grid penalty because I don't think he was going to win Monza anyway. So I'll be like, I didn't want to win Monza anyway.
You're not a true fan, Spanners, if you didn't think he could win. They're going to bring their super-duper Monza package, which they always do every year.
Yeah. Do you know what I was thinking earlier as well? I had a little beg. I was like to the F1 gods and saying, right, you gave me 4 years of Perez struggling Red Bull. You've given me nothing with Hamilton for the last 3 years. Can we not just have one good thing? The 5-place grid penalty as well. He's on form. He seems to be driving the car properly. He was on pace with Leclerc. And apart from smashing into the wall, was doing pretty well.
He was just a lick of paint got in the way, didn't it? That's all it was.
And the driving unnecessarily fast into a crowd of people on the formation lap. Just these little errors creeping in.
Yeah, it did make me wince that when I saw it live. I went, oh, that's a bit quick, and rightfully so it was. Just a shame that the stewards couldn't notice that before the race began.
Or that Tsunoda went faster. But whatever, that's not what we're talking about. We're moving on, and we've met a new friend as well. So we've got content creator from the wilds of Scotland. We've got Megan Smith. Hello, Megan.
Hello. I would like to apologise. I've made my first appearance with a really bad cold, so I will give that apology there. But lovely to be here.
I don't think many non-Scottish people will notice the difference, to be honest.
Oh, it's basically the same. Just miss my accent living in London, so.
Are you supporting, I guess, Piastri? They're like the Scotland of the southern hemisphere, aren't they, Australia? That's
the thing, is that as a Scottish person, I can't really support anyone that's English. That's just how it works. Yeah. So we do have to support Piastri. My boyfriend's a big Piastri fan, so that is kind of... I'm impartial. I'm an impartial journalist. So.
We don't do that here.
No.
Let's talk.
I have many opinions.
Let's talk about some of the madness that is occurring with Stefano Domenicali. There's been an Autosport article, but he spoke to a group of journalists. I'm taking all the quotes from the Autosport article, and he's basically saying we need to shake up Formula One. And I think the things that have really got our attention, or got my attention, was talking about shorter races and saying the races are too long. So my immediate reaction is rabble. That's the core of the sport. A Grand Prix, you sat down for a couple of hours and you watch the race evolve. So yeah, you can add extra things to the weekend, but changing the length of the Grand Prix, or almost doing away with the Grand Prix and replacing it with a MotoGP style weekend, which is what is seemingly being seriously proposed, was enough to get my attention. So first off, I do want to say I am not someone who says everything must be eternal. Yes, I'm 44, but I can embrace change, and I am open to changes. So I'm open to changes of the sprints, and I've warmed to those. Definitely open to some kind of qualifying change. There's been loads of qualifying changes in the past, but what hasn't changed is the fact that this Grand Prix, this grand prize, has been a kind of 2-hour event. You know, I know a lot of the races are now like an hour and a half, but that's the kind of football match length. And if you made it shorter, I don't see it being the same sport. If you made it 4 hours long, it would be a different sport again. But Scott, yeah, I don't know. He seems to definitely have a war cry and a battle plan here with the phrase, it's happening, whether you like it or not, get used to it. That is a direct quote.
If it's not broke, don't fix it. And I think the Sunday format has always worked, hence why it stood the test of time.
Yeah.
Apart from when it had its initial conception where the races were actually even longer, too long, around 3 hours or so from what I recently researched, way before I was even thought about and my parents were thought about. But I mean, I think on Sunday, I compare a race on Sunday like a film. You have Act 1, the start, you have Act 2 in the middle, and then you have all of that build up, all of that story leading up to Act 3, which is the end of the race. Now, not every single race is going to be an absolute barnstormer of a race where we have a fight for the lead. That we don't live in a perfect world. No, like every single football game doesn't end up being a 4-3 absolute end-to-end game. That is what we need with the tyres. We've seen with the sprint races. If you just make every race shorter and make it a sprint race, we're going to have more boring races than we do interesting ones.
Yeah, you're right, though, about the Sunday format. No one is complaining about the Sunday format. And I think that's what's the most alarming thing about these series of statements is they've suddenly said, well, the race needs to be shorter because young people have got no attention spans. It's not like it's 4 hours. They sit through a Marvel movie. If they're into F1, they can sit through an F1 race. And the other comment was, yeah, but we get a lot of views on our highlights. Yeah, because they're free. And also, if you make the race rubbish and shorter, you're going to have less highlights. This scared me. And Meg, if I'm just being doddery old man, do let me know.
Group me in with the young people that apparently I don't have an attention span. But I mean, I think if you think about it in terms of other sports, like if you change the marathon distance to a 5K, it's a completely different sport. Then you're training for a completely different thing. The result's going to be completely different. It's the same with like Wimbledon. If you're watching a long tennis match, you're always going to remember certain points that are just impressive. I think you change the format, there's still going to be that aspect of memorable moments.
Mega makes a great point about the other sports having different formats. Cricket have done the same. They had a similar kind of issue, 2020, 100, but they've still kept the core traditional format. Test cricket and tennis, as you mentioned as well, 5 sets in Grand Slams to 3 sets in other ones to increase the attention span. But what you're going to do by doing this is you're going to alienate a large and silent majority of fans, and you're just going to make it a TikTok sport. And he thinks he's looking at all these figures, as you said, with the highlights where they're free. This is great. We're not capitalizing on all of these viewers, and they can see all the data now on YouTube and so forth of age and location, and they're just going to completely lose a large proportion of traditional fans if they change the Sunday format. But the rest of the weekend, I think he's up for interpretation and transformation.
Yeah, put those highlights behind a paywall and see how well they go. That's one test. And also, you say like the silent majority. This is based on those numbers there with the highlights, but also they said there was a big survey that people were responding to. But people who take the time to respond to surveys are weird. Those are weird people. I don't know any. Meg, did you do the survey?
I didn't do any survey, but I was going to say, if I go to a restaurant and it's nice, I'd still don't leave a review. Like, I think that if you're taking the time to fill in these things, what's the point? Like, what kind of, I just don't think it's reflective of like being yourselves. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to a Grand Prix and reviewing it.
But they've definitely are speaking, and I say they, Stefano Domenicali, they're speaking about this so definitely, like, we're doing this. It's you just got to get used to it. Suck it up, Buttercup. And he just kicked the podium over and then walked off. That's how the press conference ended, is in my mind. That's what I've heard. But okay, so I think we fight and we kick and we scream over the Sunday format, and we make ourselves as loud as possible. We make ourselves heard so that Formula One knows that there is a real big chunk of the F1 fan community that likes to sit down for a 90-minute race. The rest, I think, is perhaps up for grabs. But let's see what he's talking about here with the MotoGP. Either of you two MotoGP watchers? That's okay. No.
I'm only 4 wheels. We had Carl Power.
Yeah.
Talk. I was this close earlier on, Spanners, to say in our group chat that sorry, this is 4 wheels only. I'm sure you've got a MotoGP WhatsApp. Keep it there.
They do have a MotoGP WhatsApp, and we do have a fantastic Missed Apex MotoGP podcast. So make sure you go and check that out. But Kyle did us like a really good rundown of the MotoGP format. So I'll just go through it quickly because there were some interesting ideas. So basically, they have a free practice of an hour, but there's a competitive element to it. So another thing Domenicali was saying was everyone's fed up of Friday practice. And I'm not. Friday practice got me through so many boring Fridays at work where I'd have FP1, FP2 in my ear. And the practices have a different space in my F1 fandom. They're not meant to be competitive. I enjoy them for what they are. I can see that that's a losing battle when it comes to promoters and stuff like that. They're going to want to do something on a Friday. This might be a good compromise because it's 1 hour and the top 10 times in that practice session gain direct access to what is essentially the Q3 equivalent, so the final part of qualifying. And then later on the Saturday, there is a qualifying 1 and a qualifying 2. So you can still, if you didn't qualify from the practice, you can still try to qualify for the final section. Otherwise, your time just sets your grid position in the lower part of the grid. So there's stuff like, and no parc ferme. And so they have a sprint race after that on the Saturday. And then on the Sunday, they have a warm-up, 15 minutes, and then they have their main Grand Prix. So I don't know, Scott, that's not insane if they did that.
It's not. I don't know. I'm in such two minds about what to do with Fridays because I do, to an extent, I think they've found a real kind of sweet spot with where the sprint format is. But it does still annoy me that there is a competitive session on a Friday afternoon when I'm at work, many others are at work, or many others are asleep. It's nice for those down under that side of the world because they've got a nice evening session to tune into. But yeah, maybe it's a compromise. I still don't like the idea that there's a competitive element to practice. It's practice. It's practice.
You sound like a Ted Lasso parrot.
I was trying to do that, but I haven't seen
practice.
It.
I mean, it's great. I'm the same as you. I think that I tune in on when I'm working away on a Friday afternoon. I think it's great. And one of the best kind of things about it is that there's no kind of repercussions. Obviously, your Sunday performances, then you get better race on Sunday because they've practiced. But ultimately, if you take that away and make it a competitive edge, you miss that kind of trial run and how they can play around with things for the Sunday race and make it better. And I think if you make everything with the idea of money making and getting more people watching and all that jazz, you take away from the racing.
I also want to dispute a little bit, and maybe it's because I'm a bit more of not Megan. Sorry, sorry, first time here, and I'm not disputing you.
I was ready. Let's go.
Do you know what, Megan? Shut up.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're right.
No, I wasn't disputing anything you said. I want to dispute how the promoters, that there's this angle of the promoters want a competitive session. They want fans to attend in the race circuit to have something like competitive to look forward to each day of the weekend. But I also think there's something enjoyable about how many people get to actually see the F1 cars in person, go full tilt around these tracks that they do in practice. I mean, you get 2 hours, if there's no red flags, 2 hours of these cars going around these tracks where you have a bit more of an ability to free roam. And I think that's enjoyable enough for people that are turning up to the track on Friday. They don't need a competitive session where that competitive session is going to be even shorter if it's a qualifying session. So I dispute that a little bit unless they've got feedback that says otherwise.
Times are changing though, Scott. I remember the first time I went to Silverstone, and it was actually as recently as 2013, my first time there. It was, the Friday had the junior categories in there. So you used to have F2 and F3 at the same time, and then you'd have your Porsche Super Cup. And when I went this year on the Friday, there was historic cars going around as well. So there was a lot going on, and we also had F1 Academy on there as well. So I don't understand why it has to be the F1 cars doing the heavy lifting throughout the weekend. We've got a competitive session on a Saturday, maybe the odd sprint throughout the year, but then you've got the race on the Sunday, and throughout that, you've got just this festival of motorsport, and it's bringing in other sponsors, it's bringing in other series, other drivers, and something different to look at. Why can't it be that, Scott? Bring in local motorsport series.
I completely agree, and that's what they did with Silverstone this year. I think it's the first time they had F4, F3 and F2 sessions, and it was just people that were there had racing going on every single time. There was like no time to breathe. So every time they looked at the track, there were cars going round, and seeing any single seater, especially if you've never seen them before, go around the racetrack is something in itself.
And I think if you're there, it's very expensive to go to a Grand Prix. If you're attending, you're appreciating the story that you're getting throughout the weekend. You go on a Friday, you see who's kind of topping the timesheets, and then you can kind of start. I never make the right prediction based on practice, and I think that's the fun of it. Like, I will always be wrong. And that's the storyline. I think you're going to enjoy the full thing, and you've spent the money. You might as well enjoy the storyline that's being added and sold to you.
So when I went to Silverstone in 2013, on the Friday it's very different and you could roam around wherever you wanted. This year, when I went on the Friday, I did sneak out of the hospitality. I'm a man of the people, and I tried to sneak out to watch them going through Luffield because I love that whole section. And it was really guarded, like they had a ticket person on every single stand because it's just that much more popular. And it was like a video game. It was like playing GoldenEye, and I had to wait for the guards to go on their break and sneak in. And that just shows, I think, the difference in attendance in Formula One now. So, yeah, I can see that if they get people through the door, they then feel this pressure to not disappoint them. But at what cost? Why does it have to ruin the main event? Why does it have to ruin the main sport?
And I think Megan's hit the nail on the head there. The lack of attendance at some circuits that they saw probably last year and even this year isn't because of the lack of action. It's because of the ticket prices. And that's what they clearly can't get around their heads. Similar with the highlights, they're free. Stick it behind a paywall. People aren't going to watch it. F1 is no longer free in any country. I'm fortunate, yes, with my watch alongs, what I do. The reason I get the viewership I do is because people don't have access to it all across the world, which I never realised before, unless it's like their home race and they've got a special deal with their normal TV channel like we do here in the UK. So that's really where the crux of it is, but that's one area they definitely don't want to address.
I mean, it's definitely true. I think that when I do content on TikTok and I'm speaking about the races, one of the number one comments I get is, where are you watching? And I'm like, I'm fortunate I've got the streaming stuff, but people are asking me if I've got a kind of secret link to get behind this paywall without paying. And it shows you even kind of getting a subscription to be able to watch it every week. That's kind of a thing that kind of prevents people getting there.
It's making me panic, if I'm honest. The way this press conference has come out and out of nowhere, just like on a random Wednesday. This drop. So yeah, okay. I think I'll lose the battle with the Fridays and going, yeah, but that's my little special thing I've been doing for ages. I think already I watch less sessions. So I already watch less qualifying. So me and Alex were talking about this earlier, that now it's kind of in the background. And if there's an event, I'm not going to fight my family too hard to go, I can't go to that event because of quali. I will catch up with qualifying later. Whereas the Grand Prix, it has a lot of sway in my family. You know, it's, Dad's got the Grand Prix, we'll just leave him, we'll go off and do whatever. That doesn't work with qualifying when there's 24 events a year, and it certainly doesn't hold for the sprint races either. So if you make these practice sessions competitive sessions, and I'm talking here as if I'm not a content creator, I am obviously going to watch them all, but I would be way less prone to watch the entire competitive element of the Grand Prix from start to finish. It's definitely going to feel diluted. It feels diluted enough already with the sprint weekends, but we have become acclimatized to them. I'm surprised every race isn't already a sprint weekend, but I think we're definitely heading that way.
You've hit the nail on the head there with dilution.
Thanks, mate.
Buckets.
Yeah, I thought I did well then.
I don't give you many. I don't give you many plaudits or praises, but yes,
yeah, that's okay.
You've been watching F1 longer than me, Spanners, and you've made this comment before about how we've got almost too many races now. What's that? How often has the discussion been about what's the perfect number of races in a season? Is it 15? Is it 17, 20? And the more you have of something, the less special each event becomes. So if every session is competitive, or every day is competitive in every race weekend, then yes, people aren't going to tune into every single session because they're like, I don't have that pull for that special moment. They're going to pick and choose, and that would most likely be the Sunday. Here's some quotes then. We need to understand whether to increase them, sprint weekends, how to increase them, and whether to use different formats. So, I wonder whether we should increase them, and how do we increase them? Yeah. So he's answered his own question there. And he said, I have to say that aside from some older diehard fans, everyone wants sprint weekends. Now, that is some proper tabloid double speak gaslighting. There's no way that is true. I don't think
that it is just this weird corner of holdouts. There's still people, as much as I'll go, okay, well, a sprint race, I guess that makes this specific Saturday interesting. Therefore, I'll make content around it, and that's fine. It still dilutes the Sunday. I'm still very much of that opinion that it dilutes the Sunday. When I was at the track at Miami, though, it's brilliant. It's brilliant to have it on a Saturday. I just don't believe this thing that it's just you and me, Scott, just in the corner in this cave going. Nyeh.
We all know what it comes down to. It comes down to money and how much the promoters want to front up. And I think next season's lineup for that, with some of the tracks that have been selected, Singapore being one of them,
that's crazy.
Is not, the racing is not at the forefront here, and the viewership is not at the forefront. It's about the money of it they can receive, the highest bidder, basically, of who is going to want that sprint race every year. Because some of the track selections have been shocking for sprint races, whereas some of the tracks would be so much more suitable. And yeah, it's just, that's what it comes down to. It's got nothing to do with viewership.
I think as well, it kind of gives almost kind of that it's all money or nothing reputation to it. I think then people look at it kind of go, oh, it's almost a bit dodgy that everything's just money, 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 and this is what they're going for. I think it would be nice if they took into account what tracks would be better for a sprint race and what would actually, provide good racing. And I always find when it is a sprint weekend, the sprint race wraps up and I then struggle to turn my mind to then going to the actual race and the actual qualifying. Now that they've shifted the way that it works, it's my mind then shuts off and goes, oh, so I know what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah, it's going to then flip around. Like, it's hard to kind of flip the brain around.
Yeah, it's definitely a spoiler for the Sunday, and that hasn't changed for me. And then having a second that's the first thing that's got to go. You can't have two very similar qualifying sessions and wrap yourself up ready to go for a qualifying session all over again. Let's see. He said the direction is clear. I can guarantee that in a few years there will be demand to have all weekends with the same format. Is that right, Stefano? Okay. There'll be a demand to have the thing that you're saying and that you're going for and makes you the most money. I'm not saying we'll get to MotoGP, which has a sprint at every round. That's too big a step. Don't worry. I would never do that. They're definitely going to do that. I see it more as a maturing process that respects a more traditional approach. So obviously, there, Meg wasn't suggesting that there was a magical time when it wasn't about the money. They've just got to pretend a little bit that there's some sporting reason. Lie to us just a little tiny bit more than you are. So here we go, Scott, then. What's your ideal sprint format? Every single F1 weekend is now a sprint weekend. It's done. It's decided, right? What format are you going for?
I think Carl made a very good, when he did actually start to talk about four wheels and not two in our WhatsApp group. They do it now, but I'd like to see it across all the race weekend, is remove Parc Fermé. So I think the sprint race format works well, or works its best it's ever done now, because from sprint race, you're allowed to break Parc Fermé. It ends basically, it reopens up, and they can change their setups for qualifying. So that initial preview that we have of the race on Sunday, depending on which race circuit it isn't a foregone conclusion anymore. There is still a little bit of, okay, well, the order could shake up and change up for qualifying and then the race on Sunday. But as Carl said, that teams could maybe discover something with the track conditions when they're doing their sighting laps around to the grid, as long as they don't pick up 5-place grid penalties, and they can change something on their car, on their setup, on the grid. And I think that would provide as much randomness and chaos and some performance gains as what we see now with Parc Fermé, because some teams may get it absolutely right, some may get it absolutely wrong. So I think over the course of a race weekend, that would be best, and keep it. I know obviously it can be a bit of, as Megan said, it can remove you a little bit from the race weekends once sprint race ends, and you're like, oh, I've got a qualifying in the afternoon, because you then want to go about your business and do whatever it is in the rest of the day. I think separating, having two qualifyings first and then having two races at the end, I don't know, that didn't work for me personally. I think how they've got it now is great, and just get rid of Parc Fermé.
The problem that Formula One has always had is that if you line all the cars up in pace order, they're going to spread out in pace order. Like, it's just an inherent horrible thing about motorsport, but every motorsport does it because that's the most sporting way of deciding who gets to go first. And whoever's fastest starts at the front. But that leads to basically no overtaking. And we get very excited when someone has a poor qualifying because it means, oh, that'll make it fun. Max coming up the grid from 15th. If I could do one thing that's just a little bit Mickey Mouse, it wouldn't quite be the reverse grids. That's, again, Stefano Domenicali is suggesting. I would just go, right, let's have a qualifying format that makes it much more difficult to always do your best lap. Because by the time everyone goes to Q3, they're pretty much ready to nail their best lap, barring disaster. You're going to get that kind of grid. So something like one-shot qualifying at the end of a practice session. But reverse grids is on the table, Meg. So would you object to reverse grids?
I mean, my heart is saying no. I don't like it. It kind of really stresses me out, but I appreciate it would give really good racing. At the weekend in Zandvoort, the F1 Academy did a reverse grid. So they had the kind of, and it was Nina Gateman started P8, with qualified P8, then got pole because of reverse grid, and then went on to win. And she's had a few near misses of winning throughout the season. So it's nice to see her go and do that. But I think it needs to be in a way that kind of the stakes aren't that high. Like it has to be a sprint format. Otherwise, I think the points are too.
Yeah, we're ruining the Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the sprint might be an ideal time to do something like that, Scott. You know, we in our iRacing championships. Oh, and I have a date for our next iRacing championships. We did one for the summer, and like everyone was on holiday, so we couldn't do it. So the next round we're looking at is the 16th of September.
19th, subject to approval from my better half.
Yeah, because Scott is our commentator. But we do there a feature race, a main feature race. And then we do the top 20, because we have like 40 car grids. The top 20 then get reversed. So there's no incentive to tank your place because you're fighting for points in the feature race. And then the reverse race is then like a natural, organic thing that comes out of that. Yes, you do fight a little bit harder for 20th place when you're in 21st place. You do go a little bit win or bin. But I don't like the fact that you could qualify and then you take reverse of the qualifying, because then that's subject to all sorts of fudging. But the sprint race, reverse championship order, or maybe the top 10 in the championship are reverse, top 15. That's what we do. We don't do the whole grid because the guys at the back in our championship are at the back for a reason, and we don't want them up front. We've learned those lessons. But yeah, reverse top 10 or something like that for the sprint might work out okay.
Championship order, now I'm thinking about it, might be a fairer way of doing it, an interesting way, because then you've got like the championship leaders always starting towards like the rear. But I think they need to increase the amount of points, not necessarily like up to 25 points what we've got now, the structure on a Sunday. But my criticism of the current format is that you've only got the top 8 scoring points. So half of the field, the majority of times, aren't then fighting for anything. Now, yes, if they get an opportunity to overtake, they'll go for it. But there's no intrigue in fighting for 10th place or that train of cars that are fighting around 10th place, because like 8th place, the top 8 cars at the moment, like if Kimi or if they get it all together, the top 4 teams are securing those top 8 positions, and it's just a bit like,
Yeah, points all the way down has always been something that they should do. I mean, I think, look, I'm resigned to this, I think, as long as you keep the Sunday format. And I wonder if there's not a bit of harsh parenting going on from F1 here. So I had a really similar chat with my lad who's going into GCSE year. I don't know how that translates. He's going to be 16 in the next school year. So it's a really important year, lots of exams. And I gave him this big speech about how if he doesn't start prioritizing his study and prioritizing his reading over Xbox and phone time, then things are going to change. I'm going to take those things away from you, and you need to accept that this is your new future. You need to read novels for your reading comprehension. You need to help around the house. You need to focus. I'm not going to take his Xbox away. I know I'm not. I want him to play Xbox. I want to play Nintendo with him, but I'm changing his mindset. So I feel like this is all a big kind of, they've really puffed their chests out and gone, right, it's going to change, and we're going to take away all the toys. And so maybe me and Scott, as you know, slightly older gentlemen in this argument, will end up being happy that we keep our Sunday format, but they change everything else, and then we're grateful for it.
I guess the one thing from this is that while it's very worrying to read, there's a reason for it, because he said the same thing about sprint races, and look at where we are now. He brought sprint races in. So he's normally, when he says these sort of things, there is normally a follow-up not too long after with something being implemented. You got to try things. I'm all open to a certain extent of trying, but if it doesn't work, quickly bin it.
If you did it tomorrow and brought it in tomorrow with these cars, all the 2026 cars, I don't think it's going to work. So I don't think you can have those shorter races with these modern F1 cars, because it takes time for a Grand Prix to develop. And the reason the sprint races are often very dull is because you're not changing tyres, which is one of the key things in Formula One at the moment that allows for that delta. So you need to have some kind of variation in speed to get overtakes going. You need to have cars coming out of order a little bit, or having to do an undercut and sacrificing their tyre life later. You've got to have some variation going. That's how F1 has had this giant sticking plaster that has compensated for the lack of ability to follow. So if you want to make this format work, rip the front wings off, rip the rear wings off, and just have very limited aero, have smaller cars, ditch the hybrids, and I'll even pretend that there's some value in having sustainable fuel, and we can all pretend that there's any universe where sustainable fuel would actually run the road network, but we can have all the manufacturers get to feel brilliant about it because, well, we're using sustainable fuels for 2 hours on a Sunday every other weekend. Sorry, ran over, but that will at least be good racing. And I think then I can accept more.
I think you're definitely onto something, because iRacing, you look at all the F1 drivers that drive on iRacing, they don't race the fast F1 cars or the Super Formula. They race the cars that have got little aero, and they have very close racing in it, because that's where they have the most fun. Fernando Alonso, literally all he does is race Formula Vs. There's no front wing or rear wing.
Does he? Does he race Formula Vs?
Yeah, it's so much slower, but he has so much more fun in it because the racing and the driving is so much more enjoyable.
Yeah. If he's looking for something fun to do, he could go full Mario Kart and start chucking banana peels in there and shells and all that, and we'll see how that goes.
It's a really sore subject.
Yeah. Sorry.
My son is unbeatable on Mario Kart, and I don't know what he's doing.
It's a skill.
On the 200cc, I can't even drive it. So we're down to the 100 just so that I can stay on track, and I cannot beat him. If anyone can give me tips or a way to cheat, that would be amazing. So yeah, I think it's a big scary story for F1 fans. I do want change in some stuff, and I do think attention spans are a little lower. I don't think we need to go to the extremes of saying F1 needs to cater to 10-year-olds that can't sit through a movie or eat a meal in a restaurant without their iPads.
I mean, if you think about it, all that's getting shoved down our throats is how popular F1 is at the moment, that it's the most popular it's ever been. Is that not for a reason that the way it's going right now works?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, there must be something brilliant about Formula One at the moment for all of these new people to have come in the first place. And all right. Shall we actually look forward to Monza, Scott? Is that something we can do?
Let's do it. Maybe if you're a Ferrari fan, you still want to hold off. But
we're wearing the wrong shirts for feeling hopeful and looking forward.
Where's the blue?
Huh? Oh yeah. So there's a new livery. Nice, there's a new special livery for Ferrari for their home Grand Prix, which is supposedly a Niki Lauda tribute. So it's celebrating Niki Lauda's first win or championship or something. But it just so happens that Niki Lauda car is the sort of car you would use if you wanted HP to feature really prominently on the... Isn't it, Scott? I'm not wrong.
Yes. I looked at it, and the general consensus seems to be that people love it. But all I went is HP have just got more white on the car. Like the front wing's no longer white, it's carbon. Yes, the wheel hubs look pretty good.
Yeah.
But that was first that I just went, what? That's it? They are resistant to doing a full blue livery. It's gonna happen one day, I think.
There has been a blue Ferrari. I can't think of it off the top of my head. There has been a blue Ferrari F1 car. But yeah, they've very clearly gone, right, look back through Ferrari history and find a car with a big white patch for us to put HP on. And they go, oh, no. We definitely always wanted to celebrate Lauda's first, whatever it is, first time he got in the car, left foot first or whatever. So new livery, it doesn't look terrible. I'm just being very cynical. It's actually a very pretty livery. It looks quite cool. But I think that might be where the fun stops for Ferrari, Meg. I suppose they've still got Leclerc's car to push forward with.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, Hamilton? This might be the absolute redemption day, but my hopes are kind of draining on and on now. I think every race I go in thinking, oh, this is gonna be the one. And my parents don't watch F1. Lewis Hamilton is the only one they know. Every week they ask me if he's winning. Every week I have to deliver news. But they've still got Charles Leclerc, and he has proven that he can do really well around Monza. So hope is in the air.
If there's one track they're going to do it, it's here, because McLaren, their strength has always been their efficiency in the corners. They always run a more downforce dependent setup. And when you always look at the speed traps, they're always towards the bottom. And Monza, we know, requires the lowest downforce setup throughout the season. And I went back to look through where McLaren haven't performed as well this year. And the only track that I could really pinpoint was Canada. And we know they perform pretty poorly there. And that's really where you also run a lot less rear wing, a bit more of a lower downforce setup, not as much as Monza. So if any of the teams are going to look at an opportunity to get at McLaren, it's going to be here. I still think McLaren will be strong because they can still utilise their efficiency in the corners as we saw last year. There's enough of them that they can start on the front row, and we know how good they are in clean air. But we know that they could be with Charles Leclerc, Max, who's very good on a low downforce setup. They could be susceptible and at risk of being overtaken in the first couple of laps.
Let's be accurate. Norris is at risk of getting jumped by Verstappen. Piastri seems entirely immune to being jumped by Verstappen at any point. And so, yeah, I suppose briefly on the McLaren drivers, Meg, I was really, really negative on Norris's chances going forward. Yeah. And because I'm just assuming it's going to be a McLaren 1-2 from here to the end. So,
I mean, safe assumption. And
reasonable assumption, yeah.
A reasonable assumption. And I always hate kind of bringing in the mindset thing of kind of like, Norris needs a lot more kind of like building up than Oscar Piastri does. And I think that he will take this. It's either going to go one of two ways. I think either this knock of the kind of 33 points is going to take the pressure off him, and he might just do really well the next 5 races and kind of build that gap back up. Or in his head, he's going to completely switch off and go, oh, well, I'm not going to win it now, so what's the point? I think it's either going to go one of two ways. And I think it's almost a good thing that we've got a race weekend right after what's happened. He's not got time to kind of stew about it. But I do think that Piastri has just shown that he's a bit more consistent and kind of will deliver when it needs to, and he kind of learns every time that something doesn't go his way. He never makes the same mistake twice. So
yeah, Piastri is Piastriing as well as he can.
Yeah, like he is doing all the Piastri things.
Yeah, whereas Norris isn't Norrising as well, unless this has become a feature. So I saw a tweet earlier where someone was going, oh, but he's been really top level all the other years in his career. Mm. And bear in mind, I've been cheering Norris on this year. My first thought was, has he? I mean, all of last year, we were going, oh, he's just missing these opportunities. And let's say that ultimately Max had it, even if Norris had been perfect, he was still making everything much harder than it needed to be. And there was the clutch moments like Brazil in the rain, and you had that one shot of Norris flying off whilst Verstappen was busy diving down the inside of, I think, Ocon or Gasly at the time. And you go, that really summed up the season.
Yeah, I think you go back to Hungary as well, where that whole shenanigans that McLaren pulled and kind of Lando's then out in front. I think you put Max in that position, he's not giving the place back. No. I think that Lando wants to win the championship in a Lando way, but I don't think that that's
well, we literally saw Max do that when he was asked to give.
He's not going to move.
He was asked to give up 6th place to Perez.
Yeah,
I think, and he was like, no. And the beef was from Monaco that was about 12 races before. Monaco.
There's just no way that like if Max is asked to give up P1, he's never going to do that. Yeah. I think if you put Oscar in that position as well, he'd probably put his foot down and say, I'm not going to do that as well. I think he's never going to want the mindset, even last year, being a number 2 driver.
There's going to be a really good conspiracy theory stuff if Piastri's engine blows up, right? Because think of the amount of people that have been saying McLaren have been favouring Norris. They want Norris to win. There's a big thing of Zach Brown only looks happy when Lando Norris wins. So if there's an equalising engine blow up in the next few races, that's going to go wild. And I almost want that to happen just for how mad people are going to go.
I mean, you saw Zach Brown's face after it. After kind of that, he looked like, he was an unhappy man if I've ever seen it. That was head and hands. Yeah, that conspiracy is very much happening.
Oh, I forgot you're from the Piastri camp.
I've got a different insight here. It's all I hear.
So I actually think that McLaren would have taken Norris, winning and being ahead. I think they would have taken that very well because there's been Project Norris for a long time.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they're actively trying to make it happen or have done anything to make it unfair unless Scott wants to come in from the top rope.
Oh, hell.
No, you know I love a conspiracy. But no, I think in an ideal world, they would love both of their drivers to go into the last race of the year with both of them having an opportunity to win the championship. With none of these mechanical issues. They know that what happened at the weekend, there's probably that also at the back of their mind going, oh, crap, we're going to get all this stuff going online because they all tweet, they're all socially aware, and they are, and I bet Zach Brown as well, because he's very savvy when it comes to obviously like how they're perceived and things like that. I mean, look how obviously he's kind of taken McLaren to the status they are now. He's very aware of how they're perceived online. And in the media, and he would have been thinking, and he would have seen all the conspiracy stuff and favouring one side over the other. But no, I don't believe. We've watched many an F1 season where sometimes, yes, more luck falls on one side of the garage than the other. I don't think it's negligence. I think sometimes it can be just, wrong place, wrong time, and sometimes it comes down to how they're driving. And I mean, look, Lando was also in the dirty air of. Lando was in the dirty air of Oscar Piastri for 50 laps. For 50 laps, he was not outside of 2 seconds. That's a lot of hot air that he is taking on, and that could have put stress on the car. And we don't know how much of an effect that had as well. So it will be massive. It will be kicking off online, though, if, Piastri does have a convenient engine blow up. For sure, to then level the playing field again. Yeah,
lots of comments in the YouTube saying Spanish being way too negative. He could have a gearbox problem. He could run off or qualify poorly. I'm saying, well, firstly, I mean, all those things can happen to Norris as well. Like, it's not like a coin flip. If you do a heads, there's not a more chance of it being a tails next time. It's equal chance of it being heads or tails. So, Norris has already had the worst possible thing that can happen in a dominant teammate head-to-head, which is lose about four races worth of points. So even if Piastri has, say, a really bad qualifying or a 5-grid place penalty, he's still going to get up to second. This is very much 2016 Hamilton-Rosberg, where actually Rosberg was having more of those moments and was having more of those kind of off qualifying or a little bit of trouble at the beginning of the race. Even Malaysia, I think he was down the grid. He was quite far back and ended up, winning that race because of the blow up and the fact that he could just cruise past. Sochi, I think that was that year. Sochi, he ruined his tyres on lap 1 and then did the rest of the race on the prime tyre and had the pace just to get back to the front. But yeah, go on, Scott. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think he pitted on the first lap.
Yeah, end of the first lap
because he had a big lap. He had a big lock up and he ended up finishing like top 3. But yeah, no, look, the form, with 15 rounds into this season now, going into round 16, and the form clearly, and there's enough data to show that Oscar Piastri is more consistent. Simple as his worst performance this season was his first race, which was 9th. Other than that, he hasn't finished outside the top 4. So Lando, yes, on his day, can wipe the floor of Oscar Piastri. But so can Oscar to an extent. And I've always said it, championships and the greats are what they are, and they're won because of how they perform on their bad days, not how they perform on their good days. And Lando's worst days are considerably worse than Oscar Piastri, and that's why
Yeah.
he found himself chasing and losing a 20-point lead after the first round of the season. So he's got it all to do. Monza, look, it is a Lando track again. He does like it round here. He has always done well, but so is his teammate.
I don't want to characterize this as tortoise and the hare, because I think we've sort of been at risk of doing that. Like, oh, there's old reliable Piastri just plodding along, and then Norris is going win or bin. Because there is also a skill in selecting a performance level, because Piastri could just be doing that. He could be going, there's no point gripping the golf club really, really tight on every swing and going for the 350-yard drive every single time. I'm just going to do what I do. So that could well be a choice. Norris seems like he's very tight when you hear him on the radio. Even when he was winning in the previous race before summer, he felt like he was gripping the wheel tight mentally, not physically. And so that kind of approach could really mean that actually he's doing a bad thing by constantly being on or over his own personal limit. And then we over-characterize that as saying, well, he's got the core ability, he just has to deliver, and he hasn't quite delivered enough. Do you know what I mean? I don't know.
I think as well, they've got two very different ways of doing the radio as well. I think Norris has always got his race engineer in his ear. That might just be how it works, but you never hear that kind of from Piastri's side. And I think if Stefano Domenicali is doing really hard parenting on the kind of F1 side of things, McLaren are really doing the gentle parenting of, boys, remember, do not fight. And I think that that's going to wear away very quickly.
They've tell you what, they've got a big headache has kind of gone for McLaren. If they were struggling at all, if it was taking their mental toll, they can all forget about it now until the inevitable engine failure on the 81 side of the garage. So the other thing that people were saying in the YouTube comments was, or not quite grasping what I was saying, is that the competition has kind of fallen away. So at some point now we're going to look at the conceived, the battle of second place and battle of fifth place, and pretend it's important for the rest of the season. But those guys are not bolting on new upgrades. They're all pretty much looking forward to 2026, which means it really is, I think, apart from maybe the odd specialist race, maybe Singapore, something like that, it is going to be McLaren 1-2s from here on in.
100%. And that's why all the talk has been, well, Lando needs to win he needs to win the next 5 races to get back involved, because it's likely that Oscar Piastri is going to finish second. And that's why I kind of said with Zandvoort, Max, the last thing we kind of wanted from that race, of course, we couldn't foresee that there were going to be all those safety cars. But the last thing we kind of wanted was Max to get in between Oscar and Lando, because that we know how strong they are in clean air. And all that was going to do was delay Lando getting past Max and build and allow Oscar to build up that gap like we saw at Miami. And then that's it for the rest of the race. There's not going to be any fight, because Oscar's already 5, 6, 7 seconds down the road because he's got that clean air. So, and that's going to be the case for the remainder of this season, other than maybe this weekend. As you said, Singapore isn't always an outlier. Maybe Mexico as well, because of the thin air that we have there. But it's, for the most part, it's not a poor assumption to say that the two McLarens are going to 1-2 every single race between the rest of the season.
We've already touched a little bit on Ferrari, who are currently leading that battle for P2 in the Constructors.
How, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, how?
How?
Well, this is it. I mean, but what's the competition behind? So Red Bull have taken themselves out of it, and it's not just because they've got this succession of terrible, terrible drivers. Lauren Mekies has gone in and kind of blown the cover of all that and said, oh, the team didn't realise what a disadvantage Tsunoda was at, and the fact that, you can have some of the spares of the new upgrades. You don't have to wait until Verstappen's moved on to a whole nother upgrade before you start getting those spares. And I tried to get Van Gien to apologise about all the Perez slander that he's done over the last 3-4 years. I tried, Scott. I tried so hard. But he wouldn't. He absolutely refused. But I think those people who just kept attacking Perez for years and years, now we know. Pay attention to what Mekies is saying and how they go about things. Alex's argument was, it makes no business sense to build 2 different cars. That's not what's happening. They're building one car as well as they can, suited to one driver, and then the second car is just a Franken car of whatever upgrades and spares the number one car is finished with, which actually does make business sense in a cost cap. Just make sure you're pouring all that money at one car, and effectively, once he starts getting rid of those bits, you build a second car down the road. It's like the hand-me-downs. It's like the second kid who's got the football boots and the flap and the insoles are all worn out already by the time it gets to the second kid. So Red Bull take themselves out of that Constructors' Championship. Mercedes are really having a struggle on one side of the garage as well. And the early optimism, Meg, with Kimi Antonelli seems to have nearly gone now. He looks like kind of any other rookie when we had higher hopes.
He's made a good effort of knocking out Ferrari, though. He's really kind of taken that kind of to heart. He's making a good effort. I'm not sure he's going to be allowed back in Italy this weekend, but I mean,
point.
It's a shame. Do that in Monza. I dare you. You're never going to be allowed home. No, I think that he started off so well, and then since that podium in Miami, Isaac Hadjar, he's been the Rookie of the Year undeniably. Even Gabriel Bortoleto, he got some great performances in before the summer break. I think that he's just dwindling down that order. And it's sad to see. I think that he's had a lot of pressure in that kind of pressure cooker there. And it's kind of, it's just you feel for him. Well, he's 18, he's a baby.
I know. And you're saying that as someone who's also very, very young. But Scott, you asked how. So Red Bull have taken themselves out of it. If you look at the Drivers' Championship, okay, Hamilton's not a million miles away from Leclerc. So Hamilton has been scoring some points. And you go, well, it's 109 to Leclerc's 151. Whereas if you look at Mercedes, it's Russell's 184 to Antonelli's 64. So that's probably telling you that, there is the potential for Mercedes to be up there and to be in second place at the moment.
Yeah, I saw after Albon's P5, he's now on level points with Kimi Antonelli. So, and something like 30 odd points ahead of the next best car behind him. So yeah, Albon's having a great season. But yeah, no, I guess that's it, isn't it really? Is that you've got two kind of it's not okay because the Charles Leclerc fans will come at me, but average performances, I guess, this year for Ferrari on both sides of the garage. And then, Mercedes and Red Bull have just kind of one side of the garage scoring points. So, but I do want to defend Kimi a little bit. I mean, I think he's got a lot of criticism recently. Not recently, but before. What race was it? I can't remember what race it was. I think it was Hungary. There was all this talk about, he's on this poor run of form. But there's a lot of context behind there was a lot of context to
wait. That run of form was really only broken up by that podium where he still finished two places behind his teammate.
Not really, no. I mean, I know you're comparing him to George Russell, but George Russell is probably one of the best drivers on the grid this season, I think, with what he's done with that Mercedes. He's maximised that car. I mean, the one time they've been able to win a race, he's won that race. To expect an 18-year-old rookie to be on the same level of George this year was very, I think, very wishful thinking. And he had a number of great performances, topped off with Canada. And then he had that poor run of form. Yes, Monaco was his mistake, but he had, 3 DNFs. 2 of them were Mercedes issues. And then, yes, we have seen recently 2 rookie mistakes from him, Max and Charles. I mean, it's 2 great drivers to have on your
on your kill list.
On your kill list for this season. But Zandvoort was in particular a rookie mistake because he should know that's not a corner that you overtake, and he brought himself back into that race after benefiting from safety cars, and he was showing some pace. So he's definitely not the top rookie, but he hasn't had a poor season by any means. But he's not on the best run right now. But I think it's been an okay season for him, and I think Toto Wolff and the Mercedes team will actually be happy with what they've seen this year from him.
Oh, I don't know, Megan. I think Stuffy's been a bit soft there.
Oh, I was about to go. That's exactly what you mean. It's a rookie mistake, and he is a rookie, but he's just on the world stage because he's in a top team. Like, that's why if it was, you could just plod along at the back if you're in a team that's not got as great a car, learn and have these mistakes, and no one's going to point.
I'll tell you what, if you're, say, in a Kick Sauber, and you have a really mediocre mid-start to the season, then you have a couple of results, everyone starts calling you one of the rookies of the year, even though you're in 18th place in the championship on 14 points, and your veteran journeyman teammate is in 9th on 37 points, but recency bias is a hell of a thing. And he would have been able to hide in the shadows and pop up with a great result where there's nowhere to hide at Mercedes.
Same with George Russell, though. He had those years at Williams
Yeah.
where he could go and make the mistakes.
Yeah, and he did. He made a ton of mistakes. He threw away results under safety cars and did all sorts. But because you were at Williams, yeah, he kind of got away with it.
I just want to call out Jacques Villeneuve as well.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care if you're a drivers' world champion. You're not Nico Rosberg. Wind your neck in a bit. You're trying to get a soundbite. Calling Kimi Antonelli out and saying he's not ready for F1 is ridiculous. And it seems he's got a bee in his bonnet about Kimi, and he's gone for him because he said the same thing at Imola as well. Kimi brought his friends from school there because it's his home track, and he was like, he's working. He shouldn't be bringing his friends to work. It's like,
that was such an old man comment to make, wasn't it?
Have you seen his races this year? He finished 4th in Australia. He's got a podium. If he wasn't ready for F1, he wouldn't have those results under his belt this year. So just calm down a bit, Jacques.
Yeah,
Lewis Hamilton can bring Shakira to a race. I'm pretty sure Kimi can bring his class. It's fine.
Are you saying that Villeneuve is a Timu Rosberg? That's what you seem to be implying there.
I am, and there goes my any opportunity ever of working with Sky Sports.
You call him that, and then I'll clip it and I'll put it on TikTok. How's that?
Jacques Villeneuve is a Timu Nico Rosberg.
Scottifer, how
My
could
God.
you? Speaking of TikToks, we are all on TikTok, so the links will be in the show notes there. Scott, are you still posting your iRacing stuff on TikTok? So have you gone more towards the F1?
There's been a lull in my iRacing content. I'm just getting back into it as little one has just started childcare and sleeping much better.
How old's the little one? How old's the little one?
She's 11 months now.
Oh, I did tell you. I did warn you. You're right.
You did warn me, and that's why I focus more on F1, but it is massively grown the channel.
My oldest is 15, and I just about like him because he can do cool things with me, like ping pong and tennis and stuff like that. But it's been 15 years. Stuff is YouTube, though. Definitely loads of content there. Go and watch his watch-alongs. That's a great place to be when the F1 is happening. Megan Smith on TikTok.
Megan Smith Motorsports. Yep, come along. We chat about the races afterwards, beforehand, just kind of any discussions that are happening online. We can have them there and actually have an opinion on it.
Do you do the lives where you're live?
I want to do the live. So if anyone wants that, let me know, because that's my next kind of dip the toe in. So give me a shout. We'll go on live. It'll be great.
You can actually do it phone to phone, so you can invite people on to do live. So come and help me do a Missed Apex live.
There you go. We'll do that. Yeah. We'll do that, and that's how I stick my toe in.
Ruin our one, and then do a good one.
Everyone come to mine, and it'll be great. Yeah.
And you can go and follow us. We are at Missed Apex F1, and we're getting better at posting clips from the show on there, as well as me just pointing the phone at my face and going, "Here's what I reckon." Monza coming up. It's not like actually one of my favourite tracks when it comes to layout and racing, and you do kind of tend to find the cars will qualify in team order. It's very there seems to be less that the driver can do to make a difference, despite the fact that it's a really challenging course, and if they keep it on track, I think they tend to be around about where their teammate is. But it is unique on the calendar, and it is fast, and there are big challenges and different types of engineering challenges that you need to do well at the Italian Grand Prix. And so it is a classic. It has got the best ratio of not crap chicanes to crap chicanes. So turn one, it's just awful. I hate that turn. Like I can't remember. Maybe there was a time when I was alive and watching when that turn used to be different. That has a feel of a newish safety chicane. But the other chicanes, the opening high-speed chicanes, are great. There are some wonderful corners on this track, and Parabolica is one of the best final corners in F1.
What we really need this weekend is the wind conditions to be a headwind down the start-finish straight with the with the skinny rear wings we're going to see here, the skinniest all year. The DRS isn't as efficient. They actually increased the DRS last year by 100 meters to try and promote more overtaking, and it didn't really have that much of a factor. So we need that headwind so that the slipstream and the DRS is more efficient. Other than that, it could be, with not that much tyre degradation, a bit of a DRS trainee race.
Yeah, you can definitely get stuck. Meg, fan of Monza or no?
Oh yeah. It's not my favourite. It's a classic for a reason. It's always going to be kind of solid. I think in the kind of recent years, I think, was it last year that Oscar had a go at Lando at the start, because that actually made it really entertaining. I thought it was just going to be bog standard. So yeah, I'm excited. I think it'll be good.
And maybe, just maybe, the F1 gods will give me a result. Like, I can't have one race where Tsunoda does okay. I can't have one race where Hamilton makes a big charge from the back of the grid, because he's going to qualify pole, so he'll start P6. So there'll be reasons to be joyful there. But yeah, it'll be a good TV event, and enough people said that they would listen to a qualifying roundup that I will do that after the race. I'll just do a Spanners solo. So that is non-canon. If it's just me talking and none of the panel, that doesn't count to the overall lore of Missed Apex. And obviously those kind of episodes go out of date very, very quickly, but it will be there if you want to consume that on your Saturday evening. I think glad to introduce our new friend Meg. Go and follow her. Go and follow Stuffy at all his usual places. Follow me. I'm the best one. Follow me first. I'm on X still. Spanners Ready. Still holding the fort down over at X. Over on Instagram, look for Spanners Ready there, and Missed Apex F1 on TikTok. Until we see you next, work hard, be kind, and have fun. This was Missed Apex Podcast.